Hello, everyone, and welcome to another stream with the Game Ticket Show. Now, for those of you in YouTube land, make sure to come over to my Twitch channel. What are you doing with yourself? We do live streams here covering college football rankings using my very famous worldwide patent pending VPI formula. So, if you're in the YouTube world, make sure to go up to the top here. You can see I am at Twitch TV. Twitch.tv/Game Ticket Show. Come check me out, give me a follow. We can have live discussions about college football rankings. Talk about any team you want. I will break it down for you. There will be no issue. I will, if you're an SEC fan, I will tear your conference apart. Just watch me. Just be ready for that. But no, jokes aside, and if you're in the Twitch world and you want to follow my YouTube channel, I'm mostly a streamer now, but I did put it up there in the upper right-hand corner of my screen. But yeah, mostly going to be doing a lot of streaming. And I encourage anybody who sees this in YouTube land to head on over to Twitch, give me a follow there, and have some live discussions with me. That's really where I'd like to be with this. But that being said, let's jump into our first official Week 2 rankings. Week 1 is officially in the books. We did a little, I guess I call it Week 0 or preseason because Week 1 was technically split up into 2 separate weeks. There's a small group of teams that played in, August? Let's look at the dates here. Yeah, August 28th, and then the second set played the majority games on the 4th. Well, obviously there's the Thursday and Friday games, and even the special Sunday and Monday game for this opening weekend. But anyways, it's neither here or there. Opening weekend is done. The rankings are out for Week 2, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of jump into it. So for those of you guys who are new to the VPI formula, just know that these rankings aren't what's voted on by the AP polls or the ESPN polls. It's not based on any human input. This is all data driven. All I look at is a team's total offense, their total defense. Look at their strength of schedule. Basically look at their opponents and their opponents' wins and losses. We mess that all together, and it gives us our VPI rankings. So, one thing I always want to warn is that on the first week when we release these rankings, it's going to be a mess. And the reason being is because, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at your opponent and your opponent's opponent. It's always hard to say that part. It's the total offense, total defense, and record. So considering that the majority, like 90% of these teams, have only played one game, we're only essentially getting 2/3 of the data that we need. And it's that's why, as we go week to week, you're going to see that these rankings are going to shift wildly. And then when we start getting into middle to late in the season, they're going to start representing closer and closer to what's being put out by the AP polls and even the selection committee. And I think what this really does a great job doing is showing what teams really kind of align with public opinion and which teams are really going unnoticed. And just a little background on that. The American Conference year after year is always being disrespected, but this year get a lot of respect in the polls. But we'll see if that lines up again this year. But all right, guys, with no further ado, let's jump into this week's rankings. So I'm gonna have up here on my phone some of the rankings that were released by the AP poll. So at number 25 was Auburn, and what's funny here is that they are, let me double check here, nowhere to be found in my top 25. In fact, there was a two-way tie for 25, which actually came out as 26, which was between Rutgers and Appalachian State. So let's kind of dive in here into the numbers. So first, looking at Rutgers, barely making our top 25. Again, I know it says 26, but that's because there's a two-way tie. Rutgers has the lowest VPI, but when we look at what got them there, we see that currently their strength of production, which is their opponent's total offense, total defense, ranks at 69th in the nation, and their strength of schedule ranks at 89th. And since they're 1-0 with their win over Temple, that gives them the 26th ranking. Next, let's jump into Appalachian State. Let's see if Appalachian State is respected in the AP polls. No, they're not. Again, these rankings are going to be very different in week 1. As we get more data, you're going to see it's going to line closer and closer. So I really, really got to stress that, and you're going to hear me say that a lot during this stream. But with Appalachian State, you saw that the reason they're tied exactly with Rutgers is because their strength of schedule and strength of production are identical. 89th in strength of schedule, 69th in strength of production. When you split between both these teams, it is identical. In this case, Appalachian State beat East Carolina, giving them a 1-0 record, and that's why they are tied for 26. Moving on here, on to number 24, we have Syracuse. Syracuse, as you can see, the only real difference here, because the strength schedule is going to be, let me just double check. Yeah, strength schedule is actually going to be the same with all these. And the reason being is if you're looking at your opponent's wins and losses and your opponent's wins and losses, since with all these teams, we only have their opponents and they've only played one game, there's no data in their opponents, everyone has the same strength of schedule, which is 0 and 1. And that's why they're tied for 89th. The reason being why, it's like, well, why wouldn't they all be tied for first if there's only going to be wins and losses? Like one winner and one loser for week 1. The reason being is, again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, there was a split in the week 1 games where on August 28th, a small set of teams played, and a lot of those teams have either one and one win or one loss, or both wins or both losses. I think of like UConn lost both games, but that explains why the strength of schedule is identical for all these teams, because again, this is going to change wildly as we get more data, as more teams start playing, and we get more data on your opponents. So moving on to Syracuse, as mentioned, what's really going to differentiate all these teams is actually going to be the strength of production. So how good was the offense and defense of the teams they played? So with Syracuse having a team ranked at 67th strength production against beating Ohio, that's against us, our 24th in rankings. Next, we're going to move on to Michigan State. As you can see, slight change in rank for strength of production. They beat Northwestern and given Michigan State number 23 rankings. Let's follow up to see. Yeah, Michigan State, none of these teams we mentioned so far are currently ranked in the top 25. And again, they probably won't be. We'll see how the season plays out, but, not enough data to give accurate rankings. So this is off the very limited data we have. Moving on to Kansas State, huge. I mean, I don't know if it's a big upset. It was a big surprise for me watching that game that morning. I mean, Stanford being the physical team that they are, and even if they don't have a great quarterback, you could always depend on a strong O-line and a great running game year after year after year. And for them to go in there and just kind of like not be able to do anything against Kansas State. And remember, Kansas State doesn't recruit well. I mean, going back to the Bill Snyder days, it was a lot of college transfers. Not big recruiting classes, very well coached teams, and it really is excellent coaching, which is why they have any success at that program. I mean, no one historically, I don't think they've ever had top 25 recruiting classes, even top 30. But it was a game that really surprised me, and I mean, if Kansas State isn't ranked now, which let me double check here, no Kansas State ranking. Yeah, I don't think Stanford's a bad team, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas State starts rising up the ranks as the season goes on. But that's where they are here in our VPI formula. Moving on to Arkansas. Arkansas, as you see, ranked at 66 in strength of production, beats Rice. Oh, that SEC scheduling, so tough. Always bringing their A game. Giving them the 23rd rank here in our rankings. Now here's a team. No, I'm sorry. I was going to say Mississippi State, but it's actually Ole Miss that's in top 25. But Staying with the SEC, with the strength production of 62, we have Mississippi State, who beat Louisiana Tech. I don't know how great Louisiana Tech is. I mean, I know they're not in a Power 5 conference, but I'm not going to knock them for playing them. Unless I'm getting confused with Louisiana, which played Texas. I don't know. One of those Louisiana schools is really good. So that gives, in our VPI rankings, Mississippi State the number 20 spot. Now, here's a team that shows up every year early on. And they played Old Dominion, which I just recently learned was even a Division I school. Every year I have to go in and update my database to look at, of new teams that are entered in, that enter Division I, teams that are removed. Like a good example is Idaho. I had them for a while. I think the first year I did this, and not realizing they're a Division II school that they dropped out. But, when I was in the Division, they're still Division I. But, yeah, I mean, so as you can see, the strength production is 60. So that's why they are ranked number 19 this week. Someone is Nevada still in the Mountain West? Let's say they are. This one, another one that I was kind of surprised by. Is Justin Wilcox still the coach at California? Let me Google that real quick. Yeah, because he is known for having great... he's still the coach at California. Yeah, doesn't have a great record. 21-22. He was 21-21 going into the season, so he's a 500 coach. I mean, it's not like, Chip Kelly, which we'll get into later, isn't a 500 coach, or less than 500. But Justin Wilcox getting upset by Nevada. So I didn't get to catch that game, but big win for the Mountain West. Assuming that they play for the Mountain West, I should really have the conferences somewhere up here. I'll make sure to add that going forward anytime I do these type of streams. Next, let's jump into Ohio State. Ohio State played one. That was a really entertaining game that I, didn't even know they were going to play on Thursday night. I thought it was going to be a Saturday game. So I only got to catch the fourth quarter of this. But, man, Minnesota made a game of it. Definitely could see it here. Ranked number 58 in strength production for Minnesota. And that's why Ohio State being the team with that sort of production gives them a number 17th rank in these VPI rankings. And again, you're going to say, well, wait, why are they so low if they're ranked number 4? Again, this is, remember those rankings that are put out by ESPN and in the AP polls and USA Today, all those, they're voted on. I don't want to say this is like the BCS because the BCS has its own set of issues, but this is strictly data driven, and that's why, as of now, Ohio State is in their top 25, number 17th. But if they continue to win, you'll see them move up, and again, you'll just have to trust me as we go on. You're going to see these rankings look very similar to their the top 25 AP and even the committee's rankings when they're released. So just give me a follow, hang tight every week as we go through these. You'll see what I'm talking about. But let's keep this going. A game I did watch a good chunk of and really disappointed with is Purdue beating Oregon State. Man, the Pac-12, as much as I love them, and for those of you new to this channel and this even on YouTube world, excuse me. I am a massive UCLA fan, so obviously I'm the Pac-12, bandwagon, and I, obviously have a preference for Pac-12 teams, and this being, a matchup against the Big Ten. I think that the Pac-12 finished 6-6 this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Just not a good weekend, and hey, big ups to Purdue for pulling this one off. That being said, look up to this, I think, is this upcoming Saturday's matchup where we have Washington playing Michigan, I believe. We have Oregon against Ohio State. So there's definitely a lot of space for us to trip back. And you know what? I think Colorado is playing somebody, right? Colorado football schedule. Yeah, and Colorado's playing Texas A&M. So, yeah, a lot of ground to make up. And I think that game's not really getting the recognition it deserves because Colorado had a pretty solid season. But then again, their coach is Carl Durrell. And as UCLA fans know, we know what Carl Durrell does with the big games. Except for one. He actually had a pretty big upset. Historical. But except for that, yeah, it doesn't have a good track record there. Moving on, we have Marshall ranked number 15. And you can see our strength production continues to shoot up. We've started all the way to 69. It's 15.5 in rank against Navy. Always, I don't follow Navy, but I do know that they are a team that every year, because of their option offense, is always getting, 8 to 9 wins. So, and also a type of team you have to prepare for specifically. Not I know that generally it's not considered a good idea, especially early on, to schedule one of these 3 military schools. But they play the option. It's a very specific type of offense you have to prepare for, and there's a higher risk of injury you find. So for Marshall to pull that off, it's a good way for the what's their full name? The Herd. God, man, for me pretending to be this top cultural black expert, I should probably start memorizing more of this. But yeah, Thundering Herd, right? That's what they are. For a good week 1 win. Moving on to Iowa. Iowa beating Indiana, Big Ten versus Big Ten, to start off the season. Rank of 54 in strength production. That gives them the 14th ranking for this week. So one thing that actually surprised me while we're on the state of Iowa is Iowa State. I couldn't tell you a thing about that program. I don't know who's on there. I don't know who their head coach is. But I saw that they are in the top 10 in rankings. I'll tell you right now, they are ranked number 9, and they dropped in the rankings 2 spots. So they're actually ranked number 7 to start off the season. So yeah, huge surprise. Someone I'll keep an eye on. But Iowa is actually ranked, and they're ranked number 10. So number 14 here. Honestly, it's just a coincidence, if I'm being perfectly honest. There's really no reason why they're so close, because again, there's not enough data. So we're just honestly week 1 just for fun. That's right. Moving on to Oklahoma, I saw the fourth quarter of this game. Tulane made a go of it. Really was an exciting finish. Tulane had the ball and had a chance, but couldn't put a good final drive together. But yeah, that was a fun fourth quarter I got to see with them, and I wish I watched more of that game. But Oklahoma, number 13 here in VPI rankings with strength production 53. That's why they're there. Moving on to a team nobody would ever thought would be on here is South Alabama. And again, you're thinking, what in the world is South Alabama doing? Not only top 25, but ranked again ahead of like Oklahoma and Ohio State and some of these other big name schools, and ranked number 12. Again, it is based on this is a resume model based ranking system, and it's looking at the production of your opponents. So this rank here I'm showing you, 51, is how tough Southern Mississippi was when it came to their production of offense and defense. So that's why this team produced more offense defense than the opponents that everybody else below them faced, and that's why they have that higher ranking right now. And the idea, while I'm on the subject, the idea of doing the rankings this way has to do with, you could play teams that maybe produce a lot, but maybe they don't play against great opponents, and their stats are inflated, right? They're producing they're shutting down teams, and they're they're putting up a lot of points, but the teams they're beating, they're not really good teams. So you're going to see this and go, well, yeah, of course, it's Southern Mississippi in this case. Like they don't play in a Power 5 conference. Of course they're going to put up bigger numbers. Well, that the idea is that if you're playing against a bunch of weaker schools and they're losing a bunch of games, specifically against like Power Five conferences, when they're playing like their non-conference schedules, as they're racking up their losses, what the hope is that the strength of schedule kind of balances that out. So a team that maybe has a really high strength of production but a really low strength of schedule because they're being really easy teams, they're not going to be rewarded as much, so they're going to obviously drop in the rankings. And on the flip side, if you have a really strong strength of schedule, but the production of these teams is very, very low, which could be indicative because it's such strong strength of schedule, you're not rewarded of. But let's say you're playing a powerhouse school like Ohio State, right? And or Oklahoma we're talking about. They have they play in top Power 5 conferences and they're producing high numbers. If they're doing both and you beat one of those teams, you're rewarded greatly for it. So it's not one or the other. You want collectively both being high with the ranking in order for you to have a higher ranking here in our VPI top 25. And actually, one last note on that. I know I'm kind of rambling on here. VPI, I coined it Victory Production Index, and it's just the number that gives you like a score based off these calculations of total offense, total defense, and opponents data with wins and losses and all that. But anyways, no more rambling on. Moving on here with our rankings. Next, we have Notre Dame, and I did see a good chunk of this game. Really thought Florida State was going to pull this one out. Not that I care much for Florida State, but let's not care much of either of these teams. I really don't like either. Respect where it's due, and to go into a hostile environment like that and pull out a victory is obviously huge for Notre Dame. As you can see, Florida State did put up good production, ranked number 47 strength production, and that's what gives Notre Dame the 11th ranking. And how close is that to the actual rankings here? Notre Dame, not too far off. Again, pure luck because we don't have enough data. It just happened to work out that way. But moving on here, we have Virginia Tech beat North Carolina. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't North Carolina ranked? Yeah, they were. And I think Virginia Tech wasn't ranked going into this. But regardless, yeah. So Virginia Tech wasn't ranked. They've moved to number 19 in the AP polls, and they're number 10 here. So quality win. Looks like North Carolina's going to put out good offensive defense, and that's why they reward Virginia Tech with a number 10 ranking. Back to that beloved SEC. One thing I should know, I just kind of did this as a space filler to put on the maps. Serves no purpose, and this thing doesn't detect most schools. So, I might change that for something else to show off on here. But anyways, just have a bit of fun placeholder. But moving on, they beat Central Michigan. Central Michigan had good production. That's why they have Missouri has strength production of 41. Gives us a number 9 rankings. Penn State and Wisconsin, I saw a good chunk of this game. Talk about a defensive battle. I know they went scoreless in the first quarter. Was it the first half overall they went scoreless? I can't remember, but I know it was a defensive battle. And this was pretty entertaining. I just love how Wisconsin coordinates their stadiums with the white and red stripes. Something you'll never really see in the West Coast. I think the last time something like that was Washington when they made the Rose Bowl under Rick Neuheisel back in those days. But yeah, you don't see stuff like that out here really. So yeah, pretty amazing to see. I love the House Payne jumping around in the fourth quarter. All cool stuff, man. A lot of respect for Wisconsin, and that's a tough loss to lose against Penn State. But Penn State, number 8. Georgia beating national title contender for the past, 4 years, whatever it's been, with Clemson. Here's an interesting thing from historical data looking at Clemson. Clemson every year doesn't have the numbers to prove that they belong in the top four because they play in the ACC, which it is not a great conference overall. But obviously, they do well in the playoffs. And I think, what was it last year? They beat, was it last year or 2 years ago when they beat Ohio State? I think it might have been 2 years. I can't remember. That was a year where in these VPR rankings I had Ohio State as a clear number one, and Clemson went there beat them. And so Clemson is definitely the real deal. I don't know about this season, but I could tell you that that's a quality win for Georgia, quality win for the SEC. I hate you guys, but good for you for winning that one. Next, another, speaking of like heartbreaks in the Pac-12, always got to talk about. Now we got to talk about the Mormons, BYU Cougars going in, beating Arizona. Arizona, obviously, high production school. You have them, ranked number 37 strength production, giving them the number 6 rankings, and expect that to change. Charlotte, a team I know nothing about. I just know they win a lot of games the past few years. I couldn't tell you anything about them. They beat Duke, Blue Devils. I mean, for most of my life, they've been terrible. I know they have some good seasons. I don't know if this is one of them. Couldn't tell you anything about either of these two schools, but Charlotte for now, number 5 in our rankings. Moving on, Northern Illinois upsetting Georgia Tech. Maybe it's upset, maybe it doesn't. Again, two teams I know nothing about, but we know that Georgia Tech put up a ton of offense and defense, 23 in strength production, which is why Northern Illinois upsetting them, or maybe it's not an upset, but gives them the number 4 rankings. The team everybody loves to hate. At least I hate them. I don't love them. I don't love to hate them. I just hate them. Beating San Jose State. I didn't watch this game. From hearing on the radio, I think I was listening to Rodney Pete and them on the drive this morning, and it looks like it was a tougher game than it should have been. Maybe a bit of a nail biter. I couldn't tell you anything about it. I just know that USC won this game, and they are ranked number 3 this week. Another team that everybody would, if these were like very accurate, which again, because we're missing so much data, they're not. But University of San Antonio, Texas, ranked number 2 this week. I mean, if they keep winning, who knows if they can stay number 2? But no, I mean, you're going to see this change a lot as weeks go on. But here they are, ranked number 2. What's interesting with this is because they beat Illinois, and Illinois beat Nebraska, so we have data on opponents, and an opponent. In this case, we have Illinois' data, and we have Nebraska's data, because Illinois beat Nebraska. That is why, even though we were looking for all these other teams, the strength of production, let me make sure. Same thing with San Jose State. San Jose State played 2 games already. What makes this unique with Illinois is that their strength of schedule was a lot higher, and their strength of production was lower, but combining somewhere in the middle between these two, that's how we get UTSA as our ranked number 2 team. So, good example of having more data will give us better rankings. Again, only 2 games. We need, a good 5-6 games before we really start, getting the nitty gritty of this and seeing, where these rankings are going to start lining up. Last but not least, number 1 overall. Can't say I'm biased because Oregon Ducks almost very narrowly lost to Fresno State. Fresno State, of course, having that blowout victory against UConn. And that's why they're showing such a high total offense and defense. And, obviously, it's not like they slacked against Oregon. They definitely put up their points. And I don't know the defensive numbers on that, but for them to make a game of it, I got to imagine it's pretty good. That's why the strength of production is so high. So Oregon having number 4 in strength of production. 46th straight schedule, again, way higher than all these because Fresno State's played 2 games with UConn and Oregon. And that is why the Pac-12 reigns supreme with Oregon at number 1. And that's something interesting because I think right now you have 3 SEC teams, if not mistaken, that are in the top 10. And in these rankings, we have 2 Pac-12 and just 1 SEC team. So we'll see how that plays out. But that is it, guys. Just want to do a short, fun stream of covering my college football rankings. I will be dumping this onto my YouTube channel for them to check it out. Again, YouTubers, make sure to come over to Twitch, because what I really like this to be, the goal is, as I'm getting here week to week, to see you guys in my little chat box there. We can have a little conversation about these rankings, what you think, who you want me to discuss, a team maybe that you think should be in the top 25 but isn't currently showing. What do their numbers look like? So definitely expect to have a lot of fun with this. And so yeah, head over to twitch.tv/Gaming Show, and that's where you'll find me here once a week. I don't have a set schedule of when I'll be streaming these, but expect either Mondays or Tuesdays to try to get them out before we get into any games on Thursdays. But that is it for me. Thank you guys all for watching, and I will catch you guys all next time. Good night, everybody.